Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to today's session entitled Personal Finance Chit Chat with Han and Soraya, in conjunction with Financial Literacy Month 2021, organized by the Financial Education Network, a network which aims to provide financial education support during this challenging time. Hope everyone's doing well this afternoon and staying safe. I'm Han, co-founder and director of Ringgit Plus, Malaysia's #1 financial marketplace. We've been operating since 2012. We've served over 1 million customers for various financial products, including credit cards, loans, insurance, and wealth services. Right. I'm also a licensed financial planner. And over the past year at Ringgit Plus, my financial planning team and I have helped thousands of Malaysians with personal finance, financial planning support. Let's first set the scene for this afternoon. Over the past 18 months, the COVID-19 pandemic has been quite damaging, not just for our health and economy, but also our personal money. In the most recent survey that we did at Ringgit Plus, the Ringgit Plus Malaysian Financial Literacy Survey 2021, we discovered a few scary statistics that you Malaysians told us, right? Over half, or 56% of Malaysians told us that they can't save at all or save less than 500 ringgit a month. Almost half of Malaysians, so similar numbers, spend the same or more than what they earn each month, which kind of matches up. And the scariest of all, which is only 15% of Malaysians told us that they believe that their EPF balance will be enough for them to retire on. This is down from 30% last year, right? All this means we're all hurting financially a little, and we hope today we can help a little by sharing some thoughts on various questions that you might have. With me, I have a highly acclaimed personal finance writer, speaker, and activist, Soraya Zainuddin. Soraya, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and then what we're going to be doing this afternoon.
Thank you for the introduction, Han. It's really nice to be doing this second year in a row. So Han mentioned that, yes, I am a writer, speaker, and founder of the personal finance website ringgit.com. And I'm happy also to share that I'm, as of now, an associate financial planner on the way to get my CFP certification. So yay. Today, as Han said, we are going to answer some questions that you, the audience, have submitted earlier this week. We asked you to submit, on Slido. We have received, as of this morning, about 34 questions. We're going to go through them as much as possible. For those of you tuning in from the platform, you will also see, I think right down below, you can see there's a Slido where you can also ask your questions. I'll put the ones that you want answered, and as and when we will see how we can best address it. So without further ado, we'll just jump right into the questions. What do you think, Han? Shall we go ahead?
Let's do that. Hope you're doing well. You ready, Soraya? Why not ladies first, right? You go ahead first.
Yeah. All right. So the first question is asked by someone called Tamara. Tamara says, "Hi, I am currently unemployed. I cannot search for a job due to my mental health. Is there any way to earn income from home as I want to pay for therapy? Thanks." What do you think, Han?
Oh, really tricky question, I think. For me, it really depends on your capacity to work, right? Mental health is a big topic these days, but I think the first thing you gotta look for yourself is, do you have capacity to work, right? Whether it's at the workplace or at home, work tends to be work, right? You have to do things and then get compensated. But if you're feeling up for working, I guess the first part of call is to find a job as usual, but make sure that you can find one which gives you flexible hours, things like full remote work, places where you feel comfortable to do work, right? So once you've determined, hey, look, I want to work from home, I'm comfortable doing that. Does the job allow me to do so, right? And so I mean, more and more employers these days are offering flexible working hours, full remote work. So be on the lookout for those. And obviously, there are many other ways to make money, which I will, I guess, let Soraya answer a bit more. Soraya, anything? I'm sure you have to add something to that.
Yes, Tamara. When I got your question, I spent the longest time doing research because I want to do you justice. Okay, so the way that I see it, right? mental health and financial health is super interrelated, and it's a chicken and egg situation. Financial health will affect your mental health, and your mental health would also be affected by your financial health. First and foremost, I think your question is about, are there ways to earn income from home because you want to pay for therapy? And the answer is yes, definitely. A lot of people are making money from home, from online work. I personally am doing that. However, beyond from that, because you say that you want to pay for therapy and assuming that you have financial difficulties, I want to point you out to a few resources that maybe you can use to go first. The first one is called BetterHelp app. It's a therapy app. It's a paid app. However, they are offering 1 month of free therapy for people. So you can claim 1 month, at least that's something. Number two is that there's an organization in Malaysia called MIASA Malaysia that stands for Mental Illness Awareness and Support Group and Support Association, excuse me. And the website is miasa.org.my, if I'm not mistaken. And you can look through what are the activities and resources that are available. There's also an initiative called Minda Kami, who is also great at providing support for people with mental health support. So when you say that you want to pay for therapy, just remember that, mental health is something that is ongoing, always going to, something that you will have to work on. It is a good idea for you or everyone else who are listening in to look for free ways to deal with your mental health issues. Look for free ways to prioritize free ways to cope with your depression, with your mental health issues. Find support groups, exercise, do gratitude journaling, all of those. No matter what, try not to go into unhealthy ways of coping with your mental health. For example, shopping. It will give you those dopamine, which you are really craving, but those will quickly spiral you into a worse financial situation, perhaps. So that's what I have to say on the matter. Han, shall we move on to the next question?
Let's do that. Thanks for the question, Tamara. It's really got me thinking something different, right? I don't usually get that kind of question. Next question is from Izwan, quite highly voted also. And the question goes, hi, could you talk about the process of getting financial advisory services, especially for middle class, if it's necessary, as well as the rates in Malaysia? So he's asking, how do I do it? Do I need it? How much it is, right? I guess I should clarify first before I pass to Soraya. We first have to differentiate between financial advisory and financial planning, right? So it can get a bit confusing, but please follow me if you can. In Malaysia, right, financial advisory is a specific regulated profession and licensed by Bank Negara, right? And it's largely, in fact, it's solely focused on insurance coverage and the fact that it's called financial advisor because they can offer you insurance from many providers. So that's quite handy. That's slightly different from financial planning, which is a little broader, right? It's a profession that's regulated by the SC, Securities Commission, rather than Bank Negara, because it also covers not just insurance, but investment, cash flow management, tax, and you can immediately tell it's a little bit broader. So I'm guessing is what you mean financial planning rather than financial advisory as it exists here in Malaysia. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to say to that. In terms of whether it's necessary or not, I think the most classic answer is it depends. But I'll put it to you guys, right? Which is don't think of it as, hey, like I only need it when I'm rich, right? Because even if you're a middle class person, you're in the M40 rate group, right? Having a financial planner guide you through your journey might help you avoid yourself from making kind of very costly mistakes, which in fact pays for itself, right? It's actually a myth that financial planning is only for rich people, right? Or T20 people, right? For example, I'm a bit biased here because we offer financial planning services ourselves. For a few hundred ringgit, you can get a very comprehensive financial plan, right? Covering all kinds of areas of your life: debt, savings, investment, retirement, tax and estate planning, and you can do it entirely online, right? But that's kind of a bit long-winded, but hopefully that helps. Soraya, what do you reckon? Like,
Sure. Yes. So I would like to say that Ringgit Plus financial planning services, they do go for a few hundred ringgit. The financial planning services can go up to thousands. So Ringgit Plus financial planning services are one of the most affordable ones in the market, if not the most affordable. But in addition to that, you can get financial planning services for free one time a year, which is right now, which is during the financial education month. If you notice in your virtual convention, there's a session called financial planning, and you can book a free session with certified or licensed financial planners. So make sure to take advantage of that. You don't have, like Han said, you don't have to be a T20 in order to start. You can even ask them specific questions. For example, can you review my insurance? Or like, what do you think of my investment portfolio right now? What is your recommendation? You can ask them specific questions like that. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which is sent by Anonymous. Anonymous asks, let's say I'm an LGBT person. What is the best way to make sure my partner gets the wealth they deserve? Wasiat can't get past faraid. Is hibah takaful good? So Anonymous, there's a few components to your question. I'm going to try and break it down. If you are Muslim, right, there is a tool called wasiat. And it is not true that wasiat cannot get past faraid, because in wasiat, in the documentation, you can allocate a third to whoever you want. However, the big caveat is if the rest of the heirs are agreeable to the pecahan, to the allocation. So I've actually researched this topic quite a lot, and I have an article on it on Ringgit or Ringgit. Your question about hibah takaful and whether it is good, it is something that I would highly recommend to all Muslims, and not just for LGBT persons. If you are a Muslim and if you have irresponsible family members, right, and if you have loved ones who cannot get inheritance from your money, for example, if you are a convert and you have your non-convert parents or siblings that you want to leave money to, right? Or if you have adopted children, they do not have any allocation under faraid system, definitely get hibah takaful, because with hibah takaful, you can allocate the beneficiary to whoever you want. You can name them as even like the sole receiver of the money. And as a benchmark, about 100 to 200 ringgit will give a cool, depending on your age and your gender and things like that, you can leave behind a cool, let's say 500,000 to 1 million, depending on how big is the amount. One last thing about hibah takaful is that it is one of the most affordable tools for inheritance, especially for Muslim people in this country. So I want to expand this question beyond LGBT person to just whoever who is listening in, who are worried that your loved ones may not get inheritance when you pass on. Han, you have anything to add?
that was very, very comprehensive, Soraya. I probably only have one last thing to add for Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous. I think what you said is right. It's not just for LGBT people. It's for anyone who wants to give outside of the faraid structure, right? It can be a friend, it can be a loved one of any kind. One thing to add, I guess, to what Soraya said about hibah takaful being a key instrument to do this is also you might want to consider hibah amanah as well. If you have existing wealth elsewhere in places like ASB or tabung haji, right? And you go, hey, look, can I give it to somebody who's not within that faraid kind of structure? Consider hibah amanah. That pretty much means you nominate somebody under that scheme, your ASB or your takaful, your tabung haji funds, to whoever you like to be, and it's basically the definition is out of love. So I think that pretty much meets your definition, dear Anonymous. So that's the only thing to add. Hibah amanah is something to consider as well for people who have the wealth sitting there and they hope to give it to their loved one. Cool. Let's keep going. I like the next one. Next one is a classic one, which I think everyone should know. Also from Anonymous. So next question is, where did you keep your emergency and sinking funds? And would you consider them part of your net worth? I think great question. And Soraya, why don't you have a go and
Oh, you
see?
to me. All right.
Yeah, I know. I want to hear what you think, because it's a very specific question. Where do you keep yours? So I want to hear. I'm curious to hear where you keep yours too.
Okay. All right. 3 months worth of expenses I keep in my bank account. That's my day-to-day. The rest, I put them in my various liquid investments. Only a minority I keep in illiquid investments. So let me expand a little bit. So the one inside the bank account, by hook or by crook, it's there because it's for daily life. That's my emergency fund. It's emergency is for a reason why it's called an emergency. And then the rest I put in ESB because it's just far enough for me to not use, but easy enough for me to take just in case I need it. And yes, I do consider them as part of my net worth. How about you, Han?
No, same. I love that answer. It's pretty much as in, it's very obvious that you know exactly what to do with that. And I think for me, I want to encourage people to do the same, right? So I keep mine in a slightly different place, and I'll explain why in a second, right? Which is, there's kind of two questions there, which is, where do you keep your stuff, and would you consider part of your net worth? Where do you keep your stuff? Your emergency fund, I think, is a good question, right? You mentioned 3 months. As a licensed financial planner, we certainly say 3 to 6 months is where you should be looking at of your expenses, so that if anything happens, you're not worried for a large amount, a long enough time, right? And the next question people are going to ask usually once I say 3 to 6 months of your expenses is, okay, where do I put this, right? And for me, I like to go principles based, right? Principles based meaning I keep my emergency funds in 3 places. The 3 principles are the following. One, it has to be liquid, like you said. I need the money within a day or less, right? Number 2, it needs to be fairly low risk, means I can't take too much risk. I can't be investing in kind of the stock market or cryptocurrencies or things like that. So it has to be fairly low risk. Means if I put the money in today, it's got to be a similar amount tomorrow, next month, next year. And third, and most important that most people forget about, is that you should try and beat inflation even with your emergency funds, right? Because emergency funds just sitting there will be eroded by inflation if you keep it under your pillow or something, right? So those 3 principles, liquid, low risk, beats inflation, right? And there are many options. You mentioned a great one, right? Which is ASB, especially the fixed price funds, perfect place to put. Why? It's low risk. The price never goes below 1. It beats inflation. It's a bit lower recently, but you still beat inflation, so above 4%. And lastly, it's fairly liquid. You get your money. You walk to the branch, get your money. It's a bit of a hassle, but you can still do it, right? Another option, which I do personally, is I have a home loan with a flexi account feature. So I live in a home. I have a home loan on it, and a flexi account feature. What that means is I have a current account which whatever money I put in there will be offset against the home loan balance. Sorry, a bit complicated, but basically what it means is, let's say my home loan is 400,000 ringgit, and I have say 50,000 of emergency money, which I put in the current account linked to the home loan. Then my interest will only be charged on 350,000. So that's what that offset means. And that effectively means my emergency funds are earning the home loan interest rate, right, which is about 3.3%, which is still it's lower than ASB, but still pretty decent, still pretty liquid. I can take the money out anytime. So that's kind of where I keep my personal emergency funds. And I certainly consider that part of my net worth because it is money that we own, right? So certainly so. Cool, good stuff. Let's move on. I think okay, the next question is going to be a firecracker one, right? You've got a anonymous admirer. Soraya, I love your content, right? What do you think about BNPL? Thanks.
Yes.
So Soraya, what do you think about BNPL?
Let me go on a rampage right now. Okay, so thank you, Anonymous, for asking this question. It is my belief that BNPL, or Buy Now Pay Later, for people who are not familiar with it, does more bad than good. For people who are hearing this term for the first time, but BNPL, or Buy Now Pay Later, is basically a system where they allow people who don't have credit card to pay for any item or services that they want using installment system, usually between 3 to 6 months. And you don't need a credit card for it. So nice, right? However, I believe that it does more harm than good. And the reason is because most items and services sold under BNPL are items that are considered wants and not needs. There's barely anything on related to health and safety services. It is mostly luxury items, mostly things like things excessive consumption, things that are aspirational, things like that that are promoted. And the second reason why I don't really promote them or like them is because it is this trend that encourages people to borrow against their future. And borrowing against this future, those kind of tools already exist right now. You know, you're borrowing money to buy a house, that's borrowing against the future, your future self's ability to pay off the loan. Or a car, right? You borrow now so that your future self will pay off the car, but you can sort of somewhat justify these things, car, house, education, because those are things that can help you earn more money and to make a living. However, with pen pal, let's say if you buy a luxury item, how can you ever justify that? And when you allow this culture of borrowing against the future, what then is the incentive for employers to raise salary, right? What is the incentive for society to raise your salary? So we have been talking about how in Malaysia, cost of living is high and salary is low. And with people who are low salary, instead of increasing your salary, there exist tools like this that say that, oh, you want what you want, so come, let's borrow money and let's help you to afford this as a way for you to live the life that you want, instead of actually prioritizing, hey, if you want something, save up for it first before you get it. So that's my 2 cents about it. And maybe something else, before I pass it over to you. The BNPL is not unique to Malaysia, so it's been existing in other countries. I'm just going to cite one statistics, right? When BNPL is already like very, very popular in Singapore, and it's popular for many reasons. Of course, you know, consumerist culture, capitalism. In a 2020 study, it says that 27% of people who use BNPL are worse off because of a BNPL purchase. 9% have paid penalty for missing payments. So I want those of you out there who say things like, oh, I will be okay, I won't have to pay the penalties, I'm okay. You don't want to be like one of those, like 10 people who are not able to pay for it, because I have now seen people who have taken excessive installments under BNPL without realizing it. So, and they're also heavily promoting it. So just that's my 2 cents. Han, over to you.
I love that mindset actually, because for me, like the ideas are good, but you know how it's being executed may not be in line with how we want to promote in terms of financial literacy, right? So my view on BNPL is very simple, right? It's I think the idea of BNPL is fantastic, right? It's extremely inclusive, right? So right now, the ability to have kind of interest free payments for things is in a pre-BNPL world, before this came about, was only the domain of high income people with credit cards with this amazing things called EPP, and then they make use of it. And then people who couldn't qualify for those things were just left out of the entire system completely, which I feel by nature that doesn't sound very inclusive to people, right? And for me, like I always love inclusion. I like things which bring more people into the fold. I guess expose is not the right word to use, but I'll use it anyway. Expose more people to kind of the various tools that are available to make cash flow planning better, etc., etc. Right? It is most of them are interest free. Some of them are also fee free, etc., etc. And they charge the merchants basically, right? So the idea is great, but I sort of feel the execution of BNPL as a business is the one that we should be very aware of, right? Well, and the execution of BNPL is highly predatory, right? Meaning, hey, exactly what you said, right? While the idea is good, it's actually it's interesting, it's inclusive, but it's being used to encourage the wrong kinds of behaviors, right? What I love to see BNPL used for is for people who need things like, I need a new washing machine, I need it today, I can't afford it today, but I probably afford it over the next 3 or 4 months. What am I going to do? I can't wash my clothes at home, etc. Like these kind of behaviors, I think are fine. It's the luxury good stuff that it's being predatorily marketed to people now. But I guess for me, this happens everywhere. And if you ask me, I prefer inclusion rather than exclusion. I'll give you a classic stat for this. Even in the credit card world, domain of the M40 and T20, right? 2/3 to 3/4 of people don't pay their credit cards on time, right? So even for supposed rich and educated people, they don't do that, right? So for me, I don't think we should be discriminatory towards people who are lower income, who can't qualify for a credit card, and say no. Therefore, you shouldn't. You therefore also shouldn't be getting a BNPL service. What I think we should do is to look at it in totality, which is these two products are great as tools, but are currently wrongly used and marketed, and we should be looking at it in totality. Both these kind of tools perform similar functions, both on the good side as well as the predatory side. We need to look at that, and I believe Bank Negara are. So that's what I hope to happen soon, because BNPL is coming fast, right, and coming hard for Malaysians. So we just need to make sure we protect the most vulnerable people. So that's kind of my view. It's a bit more controversial. I'm not saying I love BNPL. I just think as a tool, it's great. It's just as a tool, knives are good, but they can hurt people too, right? So that's kind of
regulated. But yes, so that's what I have to say about it. And you mentioned a point about inclusion. Just a really quick one, I promise. You mentioned inclusion. You know what? It is okay for that not to be, for the whole inclusion thing, not to include people to promote that to people, but that's only my own personal view. Next question, Anonymous asks, I only have personal loan and home loan. How can I finish this loan super fast? Can you give me good tips? So Han, how do you finish a home loan and personal loan super fast?
If only I had the magic button to do that for you, dear Anonymous. But okay, look, like if you do have a personal loan and a home loan, it means it quite likely means one is going to be high interest than the other. Quite likely the one which is higher interest than the other is the personal loan one. The personal loan interest for your loan would likely be a lot higher, if not just a little bit, than your home loan, right? I can't solve all your problems, but what I can do is say, look, like if you're willing to do a bit of kind of financial magic or financial engineering, you might want to consider using some of your home loan, increasing the balance a little bit, make sure it's extremely low interest versus your personal loan, and clearing off your personal loan just like that, because that way you are trading in a high interest loan. Personal loans are currently somewhere between 5 to 10% flat, or 9 to kind of 18% on a home loan APR basis. So you're going to be saving quite a lot of interest if you do that. I can't promise you it'll be gone super fast, but at the very least, you're going to be saving quite a lot of interest if you did that. So use the home loan, maybe do a top up and pay off the personal loan, right? And reduce your commitment as well as your long-term interest. So for me, that's kind of one way I would look at it. Now, if you don't want to do that kind of financial magic, you could just focus on just paying off more than what you can afford. So you go like, okay, I can afford, paying off more than what you've committed to, and therefore pay down faster, right? And if you ask me which one to pay down first, definitely the personal one first, because that's likely to be higher interest. That's kind of my view, and we do that a lot for customers here at Ringgit Plus. Soraya, what do you reckon? Anything to add to that?
No, nothing to add to that. That's a perfect answer. All right, we're hitting the half an hour mark, more or less. So I just want to welcome everyone who's just joining in right now. Just to let you know that Han and I, in this personal finance chit chat, we are answering questions already pre-submitted by the audience. We're also going to look at the questions that you submit below, down here in a bit. I see some questions already coming in. Upvote the questions that you want us to answer. That's very important, because we have way more questions than we can answer as of right now. So moving on, we're gonna answer the previous question first. I think this is another one of your domain, Han. How to use credit card to pay another credit card? How to get a 1% interest credit card? I think this person maybe mean 1%. Does it exist, 1% interest credit card? And how to use credit card to pay another credit card that's called a balance transfer credit card. Han, as of Ringgit Plus offers this kind of things as well, yes? Do you want to explain?
Sure. Thanks, Ray. I think this is, Ringgit Plus, we're quite known for credit cards. We do much more than that, obviously, but obviously the first thing we're known for is expertise in credit cards. So that I can very clearly answer these two things. Number one, how to use a credit card to pay another one? Very simply, two ways. Number one, it's called a balance transfer. What happens is you apply for a new credit card. within that credit card application, kind of 3, 4, 5 pages in, you see something called a balance transfer application, where you put your old credit card with the balance on it, the old credit card's number, and the amount that you want to transfer over to this new credit card, right? So maybe you're incurring interest at kind of 15, 18% a year on your balance right now. You apply for a new card and you transfer the balance over. There's all kinds of promos happening now. You can get it for 0%, maybe with a small fee. And then you buy yourself time to actually pay it off with and pay a much lower interest, if not none at all for the first 6 to 12 months. So that's one way to do it. The second way to do it, and a lot of credit card companies are starting to promote this, is called a kind of cash installment on the credit card, which I would say, look, beware of this. Have a look at the rates, right? If it's low, say lower than 3 or 4%, yeah, that's totally fine. It's kind of a lot better than paying 15 to 18% on your current balance. So you can take off a small amount on your new credit card and pay off yourself without having to do this kind of financial engineering, apply for things and get it approved basis. The next question is a tricky one. How do I get a 0% interest rate credit card? Good question. I prefer to get a 0% interest rate credit card, not a 1% interest rate credit card. Credit cards are 0% if you pay off your balance in full every month, right? You can get a 0% credit card, so why not go for that? I know it's probably not the answer you wanted, but credit cards can be 0%, so why not make use of it? And if you say, hey, look, I need more than 45 days, make use of things like those balance transfer programs, get your interest costs down, or things like EPPs, where you've got a large purchase, whether it's kind of a washing machine or a fridge or a car that you can get on a credit card. Sure, no problem. 0% sounds good to me. What do you reckon, Soraya? Any other tricks you want to add to that?
No, just a final reminder for everyone who's listening to always pay your credit card balance in full every month if you want to avoid that interest, because it is a lot. All right, the next question. George asked, crypto, stocks, or property, what is best to invest? Okay, Han, if you don't mind, I'm going to take this one first.
Go for it.
This is I want to say this is not financial advice, but quite obviously this is financial advice. So what I'm going to say instead is, take what you will from it, take whatever that you like, whatever you don't like, ask another person's opinion. So my opinion is that you can try any investment you want, any opportunity you want, no matter how risky it is, as long as you only use 1 to 5% of your assets. All right. I think that this is way better than the conventional advice, learn everything that you can before you do the investment and things like that. I'll tell you many reasons why you should do this approach. Number one is because you will minimize your total loss. Even if you lose everything from any high risk investment, you will only lose between 1 to 5% of your assets. Number two, there's a bias for action. More often than not, doing is better than not doing, right? And many people who say that, oh, you have to learn first. Even experts right now, stock experts, crypto experts, property experts are learning new things all the time, even years into entering that investment. So there's no possible way a beginner can learn everything before they start. So start first, okay? Number three is that you will learn better. When you start a new investment, you will, read The Edge, read books. You will want to learn more about it. You'll be more motivated. Number four, experience is always better than theory. You can read all you want, but it's only by learning, by doing, that you will learn how actually the emotional roller coaster that is associated with the investment. Number five, and this is an important one, your research, right, might suck. And the reason why I say this is because with the whole environment of content marketing right now, I'm doing communication, so I'm doing digital marketing. I can totally vouch for this. The information that you get, if you get it from friends and family, they are biased. The reason why I say they are biased is because, let's say you have parents or you have whoever else who say that, oh, property is good, crypto is good, gold is good, right? Stocks is good. The reason why they say that is because if you buy in, of course, they want you to also buy in. By you getting the same investment, it will help to maintain the price. It will keep getting higher. Number two, even if you're the type of person who find information by Googling them, do you really think that all those information are on the first page of Google just by magic? There are digital marketers whose job is to put this information where your eyeballs are looking at, right? And this also including things like online forums. People have, and I know of companies that plant fake reviews of investments, of whatever inside forums in order to mislead people or to hype it up more than they should. Number 6, and this is also a very, very important one, it will filter out a lot of scams. Chances are, if you only use 1 to 5% of your assets and the rest, you put in all the safe one, you put in EPF, you put in PRS, you put in your ASB, in your tabung haji, and all of those, right? If you only put 1 to 5% of your assets, that means that chances are it's a smallish amount. Let's say you have 10,000, 1% of that is maybe like what, 100? Maybe my maths is incorrect, let me know. And right? And scammers, they love to give you all this FOMO, like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Oh, you have 50,000, great. Our package to buy in is 50,000. You don't want to gamble all of your money away, all of your life savings away, and that's the main worry that I have when people jump into any investment. So in short, do any investment that you want, but limit your losses. Han, how about you?
That was a lot. I think George, great question. That's kind of the $1 million, or in some cases multi-million-dollar question for most people. As a licensed financial planner, it's hard for me to say, hey, look, you should do this or this without knowing much more than just the question. But what I would say is, I can share with you a few concepts which should help you in your decision making, right? So I think what Soraya's suggested there is a very extreme version of the barbell strategy, right? Keep most of it in safe stuff, and start learning quick by doing with a little bit of your money. I think that's a great way to start if you're a beginner, right? If you're looking for investment advice, I think the key is to remember, nobody should be giving you investment advice without first knowing your circumstances. So this example of me doing, I can't tell you what to do, right? But what I can share with you is a few things that should help you along your way, regardless of where you are. Number one, look at what your position is today, right? And then once you've done that, I want you to remember one word, which is diversification, right? So here's an example. If you're entirely in property right now, maybe consider investing outside of just property. That's what diversification means. It means don't put all your money into one big basket. In your case, if that was the case, in a big property basket, right? I've got a client who had all his money into the Malaysian stock market and asked me, hey, is this a good investment? Should I invest in property? Should I invest in all these kind of things? Same question. And what I told him was, look, right, you've got quite a lot in stocks already. Try diversifying, right? Move across more asset classes and build a portfolio which is well diversified. So frequently, regardless of what the correct answer is, and honestly, there's no correct answer, right? Focus on diversifying. So if you're a lot in property, go to stocks, go to other things. If you're a lot in stocks, go to other things. So that's one. Second is, there is no such thing as the best investment, right? So which is the best, right? Markets move, financial markets, asset markets, like even crypto markets move in cycles, right? You might have heard the term bull market and bear market, expansion, recession. These things impact prices of things, and nobody, I repeat, nobody can tell you where asset prices are going tomorrow, next year, right? They can guess, but their guess is almost as good as yours, right? So the trick there is not to time the market in terms of a specific asset class. I think crypto is good right now, or I think property is good right now. It's about making sure you've got enough exposure to many things, and then consistently investing throughout the cycle, right? Whether it's bull or bear market, you're putting money in regardless. And for me, with those two kind of mindsets, you can't go wrong. Diversify and be consistent with your investing. And feel free to experiment, like what Soraya says, experiment with it a little bit and try it out. So that's the only thing I would add to that very, very scary question.
Maybe one last bit I want to add to that is that do all of your experimental and all this, timing. I'm not immune to it. It's fun. Do all of your speculative investments in addition to your consistent ones every single month. So every single month you have to make sure already put money in EPF, already put money in all your other safe investments, and then whatever is left over, then you can play around with that. Consider your fun or even an entertainment money. but prioritize your consistent one, that every month one first, like never miss those. All right, the next question is from Luis Asri. Another question about BNPL, Han. So businesses are crazy for it because of the great potential profit, but who's going to protect consumers of its dangers? It seems a credit card 2.0, what can we do? Earlier in the talk, we have already spoke at length about BNPL and how it's predatory, but at the same way, it is also promoting financial inclusion. Luis Asri, who's also behind a YouTube channel called the Personal Finance Challenge, a very good one. And to answer your question, Luis, right now, because it is technically not regulated under the purview of the financial not under BNM, not under SC. It's only sort of regulated under KDP, KK. I may be wrong about the acronyms. So it is kind of up for like individuals like me, like you, Han, like personal finance content creators out there who are talking about its dangers. So I have seen many people actually speaking out about this and telling people about the dangers, and especially for Muslims, reminding each other that the majority of BNPL players are promoting riba, and riba is haram. There's only one BNPL company that is Sharia compliant. So if you must, then pick the Sharia compliant option. If cannot, then it is riba is, go to hell, go to like neraka kind of thing. So be careful of that. Next question, Han.
Okay. Yeah, I think next question is from Nadia. And we should probably answer this one and then look to move to the live questions just to see what's on there. There's quite a lot there. Nadia has a question, which is, how do I know if I have enough money to buy a property? Any advice for fresh grads on how and when to buy property? The thought of being in debt scares me. Nadia, it scares most of us. Soraya, I want to know what you think, because I want to hear what your thoughts are on this, because this sounds exactly like what the kind of advice that you tend to get asked a lot.
Like the other day on Twitter, where I live in most of the time, somebody was asking, do you have any goals to achieve before the age of 30? And many people actually answered, a house and a car. And both of these things are liabilities. And it is extremely, how to say, cannot, but you have to be very, very, very realistic. And the second thing that I want to say here is, why rush? It is very true that having both these things, remember, if a house in Klang Valley, you're talking about at least, depending on the house price on the market, at least 1,000, 1,500 ringgit, 2,000 ringgit per month. And then a car is at least 500 ringgit per month. That's already 2,000 ringgit plus that you have to allocate just to pay off this two huge commitments per month. So do you want to rush? But if you do, so the best thing is like think 2, 3, 4, 5 times before you commit to these things. But if you are already in this situation, I know some of you who are listening in are like, oh, sorry, I'm already having like this kind of debt. And try and see how you can work on these assets. For example, if you already own a house, try to rent out some rooms so you can reduce your commitments a little bit. Try and rent out your car or use it towards like side income so you can use it towards to pay off your financial commitments. For many people, I understand that these two things symbolize adulthood, and I don't blame them for wanting it, but you have to remember that considering the Department of Statistics say that in 2020, the median salary is just roughly 2,000 ringgit per month. Do you really want to spend it all on just these two items?
Yeah, I love that, because for me, it's a step away from just thinking about this is how you should live your life, right? And I think most people should look at how they live their life based on what they want rather than what society demands. But I guess Nadia is asking for kind of a bit of number-driven tips. Let me try and fill in your view. I love your view, by the way, but I'll try and see if we can help Nadia just be explicit with answering the question. How do you know if you have money to buy a property? Very simply, 2 tests. Test number 1, do you have at least 10% for the down payment? I know there are plenty of offers out there that say 0 down payment, that kind of stuff. But for me, a good test to not just delay that gratification, but to to really put yourself in a strong financial footing is to see, do you have enough for at least a 10% down payment plus maybe 1 or 2% more for the property transaction costs and stamp duties and stuff like that. So if you're looking for a fresh graduate 3 to 400,000 ringgit property, you have at least 35 to 45,000 ringgit. Good test, right? That's when you know, okay, I can start thinking about it, right? Second test is when you do think about a property and then you look at the mortgage, home loan on 90% of that remaining balance, right? Is the installment going to be more than 30% of your income? If it is, you're probably going to be overstretching yourself. Yet again, I know many banks are saying, don't worry, you can loan up to 50, 60, whatever % of your money, of your income. But for me, as a financial planner, most people that I've spoken to and I've analyzed who are well in control of their money have it way below 30. Most people I speak to who don't have their money in control are way above that. So for me, that's why that 30% rule really makes a difference. So, like you said, 1,000 ringgit a month, is that 30% of your salary? If it's more than that, you might want to reconsider. You're probably not ready, right? And yes, the thought of that should scare you, right? Last thing I want to add is I think of cars and houses differently, right? Cars are a utility, but they're given to you by an asset which depreciates, right? Right. Housing is basically, if you buy a house, you're buying a likely but not guaranteed appreciating asset, and basically you're locking in inflation for basically you're letting inflation work on your side rather than against you if you were renting, right? So that's kind of a benefit. The cost of doing that is lack of flexibility. You're tied down to one house. It's really difficult to dispose of it. Takes you a year. So you trade in a bit of flexibility, but you do lock in the fact that you protect yourself from kind of future rent increases because of inflation, etc. And you are in control of your own kind of living costs essentially. So that's kind of what I think. But Nadia, do those two tests. If you pass those two tests, then you're probably ready. Then the question you should ask is this Suraya's point, which is, do you even want it? Or do you feel that you need it? Or do you actually just want it? Right. So that's kind of a couple of tests there. Good question.
Mm-hmm. It is currently 1:47, so I thought maybe it's a good time to segue, Han, into the questions that we receive during this segment. So we have about, say, 10 minutes to go. This question is an interesting one. Mr. Muhammad Firdaus is asking, adakah patut personal loan dipanjangkan kepada 20 tahun kembali seperti dahulu? Komitmen rendah, maka kuasa membeli meningkat dan ekonomi grow. Should personal loans be lengthened to 20 years? Han, this is a tough one. What say you?
Very tough. And for me personally, I'd say I vote for no, right? One of the great things that the Bank Negara has done in the last kind of 10-15 years has been to control or put regulations around kind of personal loans because of the same kind of mindset that we were talking about with BNPL earlier, which is encouraging consumers to do things which are not beneficial to them, right? Predatory marketing done by lenders, right? And I think by nature, personal loan is for personal expenses, right? If there are things which you want to buy which are asset-based, they want to increase your income or increase your wealth, right? That there are loans available there already. You're talking home loans to increase your wealth by buying a home, ASB financing, you increase your wealth by getting ASB, and these are nicely long tenure already, right? And for increase your income, we have PTPTN, study harder, study more, get high income, etc. Personal loans are typically used for personal consumption, which I think I'm not in favor of that, honestly. And the second reason why I'm not in favor of that is because personal loans are frequently, and they will likely continue to be, the highest interest types of financing other than credit card balances. But in terms of term financing, the highest interest, higher than car loans, higher than home loans. So I would say no for those two reasons. What do you reckon?
Same answer. I'm just going to translate it quick for the benefit of Encik Firdaus over there. Encik Firdaus, apa yang Encik Han cakap tadi ialah sebaiknya personal loan tidak wajar untuk dipanjangkan, banyak sebabnya, tapi salah satu sebab ialah dia memudaratkan kita sebenarnya sebab interest dia sangat tinggi. Bayangkan kalau dipanjangkan kepada 20 tahun, nanti interest dia sebenarnya dah melebihi jumlah asal barang tersebut. Okay? So kita move on. We move on to the next question. Also actually in Malay, but a very popular question. Macam mana hendak cari sumber dana dengan mudah yang kurang syarat dari institusi kewangan yang syarat ketat tanpa duit dan tak mampu bergerak untuk niaga? How to find sources of income, easy sources of income, easy sources of financing with less syarat. What is syarat in English? With less
conditions, terms and conditions.
Institutions. And if we cannot work for it, I believe.
No, I think it's if without the money I can't do business. Right? I think that's kind of Aziz wants to start a business from what I can tell, right? And he's having trouble finding financing. I think there's an answer for the moderator there, which is those financial institutions are there at Bank Negara's booths. Go and ask them why, what's ask them directly for your case, right? So untuk peniaga anda, tanya sendiri, tanya di booth tersebut. All the banks are there, so you should go and have a look, right? And ask very, very directly, hey, what are my issues? How can you help me? So that's, if you're looking to solve your problem, they're right there. But for me, I think a couple of things else to think about, right? Especially if you're raising funds for your business, you need financing. Look beyond just the banks. There are many sources of financing for new businesses these days. Especially for small businesses, there's all kinds of grants available. You don't have to take a loan. That's not the only thing you can do. Lots of grants available for small business, especially with the latest Pemulih and Penjana, then Pemulih and then Pemerkasa plans for the government. There's lots of schemes that are available for you, which are not just financing. So that's one. Second, if you're looking for financing, there are actually many sources outside of banks, right, that you can get. So be sure to find those that are regulated, right, by Bank Negara or the SC. So there's things like P2P players, which can help you source from the public. That's quite useful. Or ECF, if you're willing to give up some of your business. Equity crowdfunding is another way to do it. Many ways other than just going to a bank is what I wanted to say, right? What do you reckon, Soraya? You're a small business owner. Any tips for Encik Aziz?
Maybe satu je. I just want to add on here. Untuk sesiapa yang dekat sini yang nak mencari sumber kewangan, sumber income, boleh ada satu agensi ni nama dia Institut Keusahawanan Negara. Banyak organize webinar, workshop, banyak jenis cara untuk dapatkan punca pendapatan, tak semestinya online, ada juga offline, dan dia ajar juga, ada bengkel-bengkel juga yang dia boleh ajar. Jadi daripada mereka juga boleh tanya di mana boleh dapat dana kalau kita nak kembangkan bisnes kecil yang kita ada. Okay, so that's what my contribution is from there. Let's move on to the next one. I think this one is maybe like the final one that we can do right now before we end this one. Time just flew by so fast. So this question is asked from Noor. Macam mana nak uruskan kewangan dengan gaji bawah RM1,300? Let me expand that to how do we manage our income, our financial life with a small salary? What do you say, Han?
What I'd say is the obvious statement is, look, we can't change the fact that structurally in Malaysia, average salaries, starting salaries are low, right? That's kind of a macro thing. As an individual, we can't change that. Maybe through a little bit of activism, call your MP, etc. You can do that. But for your own self, it's difficult, right? So the only thing I would say is, look, find whatever ways to increase your income that you can. So that's kind of a hopefully something that you can focus on other than just save. Try to figure out how to increase your income. I'm not saying get a second job. I'm saying, hey, look, like, how do I increase my skills? How do I increase my marketability in the open market to increase my salary? Can I do anything extra, not just for my employer, but for myself that helps me increase my income? So that's kind of first thing out the way. But for me, regardless of what income level you're in, right? There are two main ways to look at how to, I guess, uruskan kewangan or manage your budget, right? I think that's manage your finances, right? In terms of saving, right, there are very easy, pain-free ways to save, right? So for example, if you're finding that you're spending quite a lot on housing and transport, right, why not figure out a way to not do that? You might have to inconvenience yourself a little move closer to your workplace, then you don't need a car, for example. It's not a great thing to say, but like for me, like why make things harder than it already is, right? For yourself, live closer to your workplace, and save hopefully on both those things if you can, right? And second, can you live below your means regardless of what salary level you're in? So for example, right, if you're earning 3,000 ringgit a month, right, can you live like you're earning 2, right? Why do I say that? Somebody out there in Malaysia is living on 2,000 ringgit, right? Can you challenge yourself to do that? Again, not a nice thing to say, but that's the kind of thing that puts control in your hands, right? Rather than anyone else's, like, the government should do something for me, the country should do something for me. No, I earn 3,000, which is okay, but not a lot. But can I live like somebody who's earning 2? And I'll save the difference, right? And I know it's tough to do, but that's just the mindset that you can have. And this applies regardless of whether it's 3,000, 1,005, right? And you go, hey, I only want 1,300 ringgit, like you said. Can you live like like somebody who's earning 1,100, right? Just below the minimum wage or just at the minimum wage, right? That's 200 ringgit less than yourself, right? Somebody out there is, right? Who's not you, right? Can you do that for your financial future? So you reap the benefits of doing that, nobody else, right? So hopefully that gives you a bit of encouragement. 2 ways: increase your income as much as you can, and have a deflation mindset in your life, right? Which is, can I live on less, right, and still be happy, knowing that I'm sacrificing for myself and nobody else, right? I'm sacrificing for myself. I'm not sacrificing for anyone else. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't know, Soraya, like, does that make sense to you? And would you like to add to that?
I do. I like what you say about, there's so much that we can do for activism, and we should definitely hold our politicians accountable. They're supposed to take care of their citizens. However, don't let them take more time than they should. Spend maybe like 5 minutes being angry at it, and then back to relying on yourself, because at the end of the day, you can't budget your way out of poverty, unfortunately. If you're someone who's earning low income, like what Han said, you can control your expenses somewhat. You should increase your income. However, my addition to that is your strongest resources right now is your access to community support. So wherever that you can find help, find help. There are people who are doing so many different kinds of various kind of creative ways to both decrease expenses and to increase income. For example, renting together with a bunch of friends in order to keep accommodation expense super low, or sharing a car with family members to keep transportation costs super low. But beyond that, aside from relying from community members, you have no choice but to first and foremost, rely on yourself, in addition to whatever activism work that you should be doing. So don't complain and then not do anything after you complain. Unfortunately, that is kind of the truth. We are nearing the end of our session today, actually. And maybe do you want to give your final word before we wrap it up?
Yep, sure. No, thanks. I think this has been really, as always, like very enjoyable. I think personal finance should not be just lots of theory, lots of quotes with shirts and ties, talking down at people. It should be really answering people's genuine questions, right, and uncertainties and problems, and helping solve problems. That's exactly what we do at Ringgit Plus. So hopefully, check it out. We have a booth. I don't know, Suraya, if you checked us out, we have a booth where we have all our financial planners ready to help you online. But for me, like, I think it's been a really tough year and a half, and not just for the country, but for us personally, right, and our personal money, right. I hope you guys have learned quite a bit about money stuff, right, not just financial theories, but money things, from myself and Suraya over the past hour. There's one thing, I guess, from the organizers, which is there will be a pop quiz right after this session. I think there will be heaps of prizes, lucky draw prizes. Have a go at the quiz. Hopefully, like, some of the answers we gave should help you with those. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you might be eligible for some lucky draw prizes. And thanks so much for listening. For everyone who's been listening, never give up on yourself. Right, you can do it. Right, frequently the power is in your hands to make a change to your own financial future. All right. Back to you, Suraya, for some last words.
Yes, my last words for today is just keep continuing your journey to improve your finances. It's going to be super hard. We're not promising any quick fixes. It's going to be super hard before it's going to be easy, but it can and will be easy, and you can make your own luck. I'm noticing that we have some questions related to insurance. So any of you who are interested to learn more about insurance at 2:30, there's a session called What is General Insurance and Why is it important for me? So learn about general insurance later, right after this. And then at 4 p.m., we have a session called Kepentingan, Takaful dan Insurans dan Program Voucher Perlindungan Tenang. So for those of you who consider yourself as part of the B40 committee, please attend that one because the government is giving out free vouchers for you to be insured. All right. So that's all from me and also from Han. Thank you again for joining us today. Sorry to everyone who we couldn't answer today. We have time limitation, but feel free to reach out to us online. And thank you for supporting the Financial Education Network and also the Financial Literacy Month. So see you soon next year, hopefully. Take care, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.